Hello, and welcome to the Career Services presentation, Resumes Getting Started, by Northern Kentucky University. Let's get started. As you begin to develop your resume, it is important to think about what you are using your resume for. Based on this, it determines what categories you should include, as well as what content should be included in each category. One last note about resume development is that you should type your resume up on a blank, editable Word document and avoid using a template. The reason is, when you apply for positions online, employers use something called an applicant tracking system, or ATS, that reads through your resume before sending it to the hiring manager. This system has a difficult time reading through templates and may mark your resume as unreadable, which could get you kicked out of the hiring process before a person gets to see your resume. So, just to be safe, we recommend typing your resume up on a blank, editable document, avoiding templates altogether. I will now cover the basic building blocks for your resume. There are 4 basic building blocks that are included on most resumes: your contact information, objective, education, and experience. I will go through each of these in detail in a moment. Your contact information should be included at the top of your resume, just below your name. You need to include 1 email address and 1 phone number. It is important that your email address is appropriate and professional, and you need to make sure that you include an email address that you check frequently. You also have the option of including your mailing address as well as your LinkedIn or any other online profiles you may have. Next is your career or job objective. Like the thesis in an essay, your objective provides the focus for the rest of your resume. This also shows the employer that you know what you want, and you are not just applying for any job out on the market. Your objective should match what the employer is offering, so you should not write that you are seeking a marketing internship when you are applying to be an accountant. An objective works well for people who are seeking their first professional experience because they typically do not have enough experience in their field to write a professional summary. Finally, your objective should be brief, just 1 sentence long. I will now go through 3 different styles of objectives that are good to use. The first is the position style. When using this, you are stating the exact position you are applying for: to obtain a position as a commercial artist. The second is the field style. This is when you state the field of work you are applying for, but not the exact position: seeking an entry-level position in the field of pharmaceutical chemistry. The third is the skill style. This is when you are stating that you want to work at a job that requires certain skills that you possess. Desire a position utilizing writing, public speaking, and organizational skills. The next basic building block is your education. You should always list your most recent education first, which could be NKU. You should include all degree information, even if you have not yet graduated. Finally, your education should go near the top of your resume. This is because, for most students, their degree is what qualifies them most for the position they are applying for, because they do not have much professional experience. I will now go through 2 examples of how you can format your education. Within this section, you should include the name of the school as well as its city and state. In this case, Northern Kentucky University, Highland Heights, Kentucky. You should abbreviate the state to 2 capital letters. Next, you need to include the name of your degree, so Bachelor of Science in this example. You will also include the name of your major, Sociology, and this can be included on the same line as your degree or below it. Finally, you need to include the month and year that you graduated or that you expect to graduate. This person also had a track and minor that he or she chose to include. You have the option of including your GPA as well. It is recommended that you only include your GPA if it is a 3.0 or above. If it is below that, it is best to keep it off your resume. However, if it is high enough, it is not required for you to include your GPA. Here is the second example. You can see the name of the school and the city and state, as well as the month and year of graduation. This time, however, the name of the degree, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, is on its own line, and the major in management is on its own line. If you have taken any courses that are closely related to what you are applying for, and you are lacking in professional experience, you can choose to include those courses within your education. It is important to include the name of your course rather than the course code. For example, say Organizational Communication instead of CMST 303. There are a few optional sections to include within your education category. If you are a freshman or possibly a sophomore who needs to take up more space on their resume, you can include your high school. By the time you get to junior or senior year, high school is no longer relevant and it should be removed from your resume. You also have the option of including other colleges you have attended. I only recommend doing this if you have earned another degree at a college. If you earned a few credits before transferring, then I suggest leaving that college off your resume. You can also include any study abroad you have done or honors you have earned. If you add these, it is important to list the semester or semesters that you studied abroad or earned the honors. The fourth and final basic building block is experience. This can include any paid or unpaid experiences, but you should always think about what is most relevant as well as your paid jobs. Your experiences can come from a variety of places, such as jobs, volunteering, organizations, internships, and so on. You also need to list your experiences in reverse chronological order, which means you put your most recent experience first and then go backwards from there. I will now show you an example of how you can format your experiences. You need to make sure you include the name of the employer, in this case, Dillard's, and the city and state of the employer, Crestview Hills, Kentucky, again with the state abbreviated to 2 capital letters. You also need to include your job title, so sales associate, specifically in the juniors department. You also need to include the full time you worked there. This was a seasonal job, so it just says summers of 2018 and 2019. But if it was not a seasonal job, it would include the month and year that you started to the month and year that you ended. For example, February 2021 to January 2022. If this is still an ongoing job, then replace the end month and year with present. You would say February 2021 to present. Finally, you need to include bullet point descriptions of what you accomplished in this role. Each bullet point should begin with a strong action verb that is in present tense if you still hold the position, and past tense if you no longer hold the position. You should also use a variety of verbs to avoid repetition. It is important to type out this information in bullet point form rather than as a big paragraph, because you want it to be easy for the hiring manager to scan through your document quickly. I just finished covering the 4 basic building blocks for most resumes. These are your contact information, objective, education, and experience. I will now cover optional resume categories. There are many optional headings that you can choose from. I will cover a few of them. If you have experiences that are relevant to what you are applying for, but they are not listed at the top of your experience section because of reverse chronological order, you can take those experiences out and create a separate category, such as related experience, to make those experiences more prominent on your resume. You can do the same for an internship category. If you have earned any honors or awards, you can include those in a separate category. However, if they are related to education, such as Dean's List or President's List, or related to experience, such as Employee of the Month, you can choose to include those in the appropriate sections. You can include activities you have done or leadership roles you have held. You should focus on long-term activities rather than something small you did in high school. And leadership is a role that is transferable to virtually every position. If you have leadership experience, it is good to include it. Finally, you can include skills. In this section, you can list any relevant computer, language, and job-specific skills. Soft skills, such as communication, teamwork, and organization, should not be included here. This section is reserved for technical skills only. Soft skills should be incorporated into the bullet point descriptions of your experiences, so you can explain why you are such an effective communicator, how you work so well with teams, and your organizational skills. I will now go over content and formatting suggestions and then offer a few layout suggestions as well. It is best to have a 1 or 2 page resume. You do not want to have a couple of lines on the second page either, so you may need to edit or remove information. You should always determine what most positively reflects your qualifications for the position and ensure that you keep that information on your resume. You should also avoid using acronyms unless they are universally known in your line of work, because you do not want to leave the hiring manager with any questions. Our formatting suggestions include using a traditional, easy-to-read font, such as Arial or Times New Roman. You should avoid using any fancy script that is difficult to read. You should also choose a very readable size font, so between 10 and 12 point, with your name a little larger. You should also use capitalization, abbreviations, bold, indentation, and underlining to make certain information stand out. Whatever you choose to do, you need to use it consistently. If you make one job title bold, make all job titles bold. If you underline one employer name, underline all employer names, and so on. You do not want to overuse any of these because your resume can then become busy and it may be difficult to read. When considering your layout, you need to think about what you should do in order to make it through an applicant tracking system. As I said before, you should avoid using templates. This system also has a difficult time reading through multiple columns, tables, text boxes, headers and footers, shapes, and icons, so it is best to avoid all of those as well. You should also balance your information across the page. Many people have all of their information on the left side of the page, which is what we call feeling left-heavy. You should move some information to the right to make it more balanced. You could put the dates on the right side of the page, put information on one line rather than stacking it, or you could combine shorter bullet points. You also need to consider your margins. I recommend using either normal, which is 1 inch around, or narrow, which is 1/2 an inch around. You do not want your margins to be too narrow because you still want to have some white space around the page. Now that you have developed your resume, what should you do? You want your resume to be error-free, and so do we, so send your resume to our email, and I or any of the other staff members will be happy to provide you with feedback. I do ask that you please submit your resume as a Word document because when it is sent to us as a PDF or through OneDrive, it is difficult to open and edit. But if it is sent as a Word document, we can provide you with good and timely feedback. Thank you, and let us know at Career Services if you have any questions.